Hello, boys and girls. Today's story is called A Chair for My Mother. And this story is so great because there are lots of lessons to learn from it. And obviously, it's about moms and it's also about community and helping each other out. It's another story that I'm hoping you've heard of before, but if you haven't, you are really going to like it. It is one of my favorites. So here we go. A chair for my mother. My mother works as a waitress in the Blue Tile Diner. After school, sometimes I go meet her there. Then her boss, Josephine, gives me a job too. I wash the salts and peppers and fill the ketchups. One time I peeled all the onions for the onion soup. When I finish, Josephine tells me, "Good work, honey," and pays me. And every time I put half my money into the jar. Oh, and speaking of, here's the jar. It takes a long time to fill a jar this big. Every day when my mother comes home from work, I take down the jar. My mama empties all her change from tips out of her purse for me to count. Then we push all the coins into the jar. Sometimes my mama is laughing when she comes home from work. Sometimes she's so tired she falls asleep while I count the money out into piles. Some days she has lots of tips. Some days she only has a little. Then she looks worried. But every single shiny coin goes into the jar. We sit in the kitchen and count the tips. Usually, Grandma sits with us too. When we count, she likes to hum. Often she has money in her old leather wallet for us. When she gets a good bargain on tomatoes or bananas or something she buys, she puts the savings and they go into the jar. When we can't get another single coin into the jar, we are going to take all the money and go buy a chair. Yes, a chair. A wonderful, beautiful, fat, soft armchair. We will get one covered in velvet, which is a type of fabric, soft and fuzzy, with roses all over it. We are going to get the best chair in the whole world. That is because our old chairs burned up. There was a big fire in our house. All our chairs burned. So did our sofa and everything else. It was such a long time ago. My mother and I were coming home from buying new shoes. I had new sandals. She had new pumps. We were walking to our house from the bus. We were looking at everyone's tulips. She was saying she liked red tulips, and I was saying I liked yellow ones. Then we came to our block. Right outside our house stood two big fire engines. I could see lots of smoke. Tall orange flames came out of the roof. All the neighbors stood in a bunch across the street. Mama grabbed my hand and we ran. My Uncle Sandy saw us and ran to us. Mama yelled, "Where's Mother?" I yelled, "Where's my grandma?" My Aunt Ida waved and shouted, "She's here, she's here. Don't worry, she's okay." Grandma was all right. Our cat was safe too, though it took a while to find her. But everything else in our whole house was spoiled. Look how sad. Can you imagine? What was left of the house turned to charcoal and ashes. We went to stay with my mother's sister, Aunt Ida, and Uncle Sandy. Then we were able to move into the apartment downstairs. We painted the walls yellow. The floors were all shiny, but the rooms were very empty. The first day we moved in, the neighbors brought pizza and cake and ice cream. They brought a lot of other things too. The family across the street brought a table and 3 kitchen chairs. The very old man next door gave us a bed from when his children were little. My other grandpa brought us his very beautiful rug. My grandmother's sister, Sally, had made us red and white curtains. Mama's boss, Josephine, brought pots and pans, silverware, and dishes. My cousin brought me her own stuffed bear. Everyone clapped when my grandma made a speech. "You are the kindest people," she said, "and we thank you very much. It's lucky we're young and can start over." Oh, remember what that jar looked like? This jar? Now look at it. Do you remember what they're going to buy? That was last year, but we still have no sofa and no big chairs. When Mama comes home, her feet hurt. "There's no good place for me to sit and take a load off my feet," she says. When Grandma wants to sit back and hum and cut potatoes, she has to get as comfortable as she can in a hard kitchen chair. So that is how come Mama brought home the biggest jar she could find at the diner, and all the coins started to go into the jar. Now the jar is too heavy for me to lift down. Uncle Sandy gave me a quarter. He had to boost me up so I could put it in. After supper, Mama and Grandma and I stood in front of the jar. "Well, I would never have believed it, but I guess it's full," Mama said. My mother brought home the little paper wrappers for the nickels and dimes and quarters. I counted them out and wrapped them all up. On my Mother's Day off, we took all the coins to the bank. The bank exchanged them for $10 bills. Then we took the bus downtown to shop for a chair. We shopped through 4 furniture stores. We tried out big chairs and smaller ones, high chairs and low chairs, soft chairs and harder ones. Grandma said she felt like Goldilocks and the 3 bears trying out all the chairs. Finally, we found the chair we were dreaming of, and the money in the jar was just enough to pay for it. We called Aunt Ida and Uncle Sandy. They came right down in their pickup truck to drive the chair home for us. They knew we couldn't wait for it to be delivered. You see the chair? I do have to say, I like how the illustrator put the chair on this rug as if it's being showcased with that yellow. I tried out our chair in the back of the truck. Mama wouldn't let me sit there while we drove, but they let me sit on it while they carried it to the door. We sat right beside the window with the red and white curtains. Grandma and Mama and I all sat in it while Aunt Ida took our picture. Now, Grandma sits in it and talks to people going by in the daytime. Mama sits down and watches the news on TV when she comes home from her job. After supper, I sit with her, and she could reach right up and turn out the light if I fall asleep in her lap. And here's the picture of the 3 of them. Isn't that story great? I love it. A chair for my mother. How did the community work together to help the main character and her family after the fire? And can you think of any ways how you can help your community? See you next time, boys and girls.